Hello and welcome to Friday Night Arcade. This week I am taking a look at Nintendo Power, issue number 23. This issue features the first Power Blade for the NES, along with some other NES titles. We've got Monopoly, we've got Scat, it's Swordmaster, and there's also a big feature on Game Boy in this issue. And there's an interesting article in here about some of the British companies that are at the time were coming over to the United States or starting to publish games in the United States. Companies like Rare and Ocean. There's a pretty interesting little write up in there about that. So, without further ado, we'll get right to it and get into this issue. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get to it. So, right away, the first thing that I always noticed about Nintendo Power when these new issues would come is the cover. The cover on these, it was always something special and unique. And they typically, I think they used their own in-house graphics designers to make these. Sometimes it would be close to whatever the actual video game art was, but a lot of times it was something that they made themselves. And so this one we can see it's a little bit of a variant on the cover art for Power Blade, but it's something that they made themselves, and it just I don't know, it just it always looked really cool, and, I would always spend a little bit of time just kind of admiring the cover on these, and it just, I was always impressed with the amount of work that went into these, not just for the cover, but then even when you would get into it, they would put all sorts of special art around the sides for each feature. Like for this is the feature for Power Blade, and it's just got this kinda custom border going around it. And they only used it that one time just for this one feature, but they did that every month depending on the game. They didn't do it for every game, but they did it for a lot of them, and it just looks cool. So anyway, we'll get into this. We've got the Nintendo Power ad that they always had with the crazy guy with the claws. I never could quite figure this one out. I would think it would be really hard to play the game with claws that big, and also he's holding the controller upside down. But hey, what do I know? Call this number and you can get Nintendo Power today. Well, you could anyway back then. So, okay, and then we go into the table of contents. This was always usually one of the. I'd always look in there and see if maybe there's an off chance there's a game I actually own that's going to be covered. No, that never really happened. But it was fun to read about the games that were coming out. And that's one of the cool things about Nintendo Power is that even if you didn't have the game, it was fun just to read about whatever games were coming out, and uh, and then maybe hope that the little gas station uptown would have the game that would be available to rent. Maybe. One thing I did want to look at. Okay, so yeah, the cover design. It does mention the cover design in the credits here under the staff, and it says it's from Griff's Advertising. In looking, it looks like Griff's Advertising did do. It looks like they did the cover art for a handful of games back in the day, and they also did work with Nintendo Power at some point, off and on, in the early '90s. So that's just interesting. I'd like to think that somewhere along the way, the graphic artist that came up with this got some credit for that, but probably not. Knowing Nintendo, probably not. Anyway, we've got the power line. Hi, readers. Before you dive into the features, check out the special report. Have you ever wondered where the hits come from? Have you ever even thought about making video games yourself? We'll meet the developers of top-rated games to find out what goes on behind the scenes and what it takes to make a winner. So, yeah, so this is just kind of giving us a preview of what's coming up. There's a big feature on Game Boy games in this issue too. They cover 7 different Game Boy games that were coming out at the time, and we'll take a look at those as well as some of these games on the NES that they covered. Let's get into the mailbag. Player's Pulse. Let's see. Oh, so this is so at the time Operation Desert Shield was taking place over in the Persian Gulf. And these were letters from from some soldiers that were on active duty at that time and deployed over there. And we'll read one from Lance Corporal Rob Young, Operation Desert Shield. I am currently serving with the U.S. Marine Corps in Operation Desert Shield. As you may have heard, the days and nights are long. I recently received a Game Boy in the mail. It's great. It's a big hit over here. I mean, who wants to play Frisbee when you can play Nintendo games? With all of our spare time, most of us have mastered the games that we have. Here's another one from Staff Sergeant Brian Gilmartin, Operation Desert Shield. I am an Army Staff Sergeant on Operation Desert Shield and was sent a Game Boy as a present. Up until now, I thought of Nintendo as a kid's game. I thought I'd drop a line to let you know there are a lot of big kids enjoying your games in Saudi Arabia. Thank you. Oh, we've got some Mario jokes that readers had sent in. Readers send us lots of original Nintendo jokes. Some are good for a few yucks, and others are just yucky. Let's see what we got. Why did Mario cross the road? Because he couldn't find a warp zone. That's from Lindsay Polk in Boise, Idaho. Charlie Byers says, what kind of fish would dare to attack Mario? A barracuda. All right, well, okay. What about Stephen Barry in Smyrna, Georgia? He writes, how does Mario know what will happen in the future? Answer, he uses a Luigi board. Okay, that one was pretty funny. That one's pretty funny. I'll give you that one. Okay, moving on. We go into the main featured game for this issue, and that is Power Blade on the NES. This was put out by Taito in 1991. And the storyline with this is that basically AI has gone haywire, and now it's up to you to fix it. As the computers of the world have all started, there's alien armies that have taken over a master computer by force, and they're poised to launch an all-out attack on the unsuspecting citizens. As Special Agent Nova, you have been called to eliminate the alien menace and restore order to New Earth. First, you must collect tape units from the databases in 6 sectors, and then you must move on to the control center and reprogram the master computer. But of course, there are mechanized guards in each database, and sector defenses have been set to destroy all intruders. Good luck, Nova. The future of New Earth is in your hands. So, Power Blade plays kind of like Mega Man in the sense that you can you get a stage select screen early, and then you can pick which stage you want to do in any order, and you can get power-ups along the way as you go. So the power-ups are actually a big deal in this game. You run and jump, obviously. You jump with the A button, and then you can throw with the B button. You can throw your boomerang. And there's also power-ups for the boomerang. There's a Boomer 2 and a Boomer 3. And that allows you to throw the boomerang a lot further. And also allows... it gives you more recharge time, basically, so that the boomerang doesn't take as long to recharge. And then you can throw it a lot faster and take out the enemies a lot easier. It's imperative that you find power-ups on the way. There's also grenades that you can find, and there's eventually you can find multiple boomerangs that you can throw. So it's also one of the cool things is there's actually like your character can find it's called a power suit. So you get like your own little mech suit that you can walk around in, and you can take like 3 hits of damage with it, and then also throws a super powerful kind of a sonic blast thing. I do wish that I guess there's 2 of these in each stage, and I wish that they did a little bit more with that, because you only get 3 hits and then you just lose it. So that's kind of unfortunate, but because there's some spots where you just can't avoid damage, it seems like. But overall, this is a fun game. They gave it 4.0 for theme and fun, 4.0 for play control, graphics and sound. They only gave it 3.7. I feel like that's a little, I don't know. I would have went a little bit higher than that, especially with the music. I thought the music was really good. Yeah, maybe the colors are a little, they kind of all run together a little bit. It's maybe a little on the drab side, but I thought all the character sprites and everything looked really good. Um, I thought it was a good looking game, and it's a fun game. When you go into each level, the levels are kind of open world, and you can kind of explore a little bit, but uh, that what you're looking for is you're trying to find your way. Each level has a boss, and basically you have to go talk to some dude and get a special ID card before you can go in and fight the boss. So you kind of have to explore the levels a little bit, but mostly you're just going to be wanting to try to find as many power ups as you can. And the enemies do respawn, so that's helpful because if you can kind of find some different spots to look around in, you'll find some good spots to like farm some power ups, or if your character gets a little low on health, you can farm some cheeseburgers. I like that they give you hamburgers for power ups. That's nice. So all in all, this Power Blade is one of those games that I wish I had when I was a kid. I'm sure I read this and desperately wanted to play it, but I remember not getting a chance to play it until I was quite a bit older. You were kind of at the mercy of whatever games that the gas station had to rent, and it wasn't. In fact, I don't even remember actually seeing this on sale at the store that sold NES games near us. We had a store called Pomida. That's I don't know if that's just a Midwest thing or if that was everywhere. Eventually, they got taken out by Walmart, like everybody did. But uh, the display where they had NES games was pretty small, and I don't ever remember seeing Power Blade there for sale. Um, I could be wrong about that, but I don't ever remember seeing it. So yeah, Power Blade, fun game to play. It's a little challenging, but if you take the time to find the power ups, um, you really have to go out of your way to find all the power ups to help your character get more better attacks and everything. It's boy, and they went all out with this. They show all the sectors. See, now that boss is cool looking. Look at that. Look at that. That's awesome. Yeah, see, and like somebody had to draw all this. This is what I'm talking about. The art that they put into this. Like it's kind of now this. I mean, yeah, that kind of looks like Mother Brain, I guess, for the last battle. But that's still cool looking. And then somebody would have had to draw all this. I'll bet. Um, some of this might have been in some of the key art that came with the game, but I think they drew most of this. So yeah, Power Blade on the NES. Definitely worth checking out if you've never played it before. I guess nowadays it goes for like $80 as a loose cartridge, and boy, that's a lot. Obviously, there are other ways to play it, but it's definitely worth checking out any way that you can. So definitely check that one out. Is your gaming chair starting to look like this? So, my old chair that I bought from an Office Depot that isn't even open anymore was starting to break down. You know, that faux leather was starting to chip off of it, and it would leave a mess of little black flecky things underneath it anytime I sat in it. The arms didn't quite sit right anymore and kind of wobbled. Well, right around the same time I was mulling over buying a new chair, the folks at EWIN Gaming Chairs happened to reach out and ask if they could send me a chair. Those of you that watch the channel know I don't normally do sponsorships or anything like that, but I said sure, if you want to send me a chair, I'll take a look at it. Now, if you're not familiar with EWIN, they make gaming chairs that are specifically designed for folks that are big and tall. These are designed to withstand weight up to 550 pounds, which, yikes. Hopefully you don't need quite that much weight, but if you have kids that always want to sit on your lap while you're working on the computer, that may be useful. So anyway, they shipped me this ginormous monstrosity, and let's see if we can get this thing together. Alright, probably took me a little over an hour or so to get it fully assembled, mostly just because it's so big and awkward. Just getting all of the parts unpacked was half the battle. Also, they shipped it to my UPS box, so I had to lug this thing out of a UPS store and up into my pickup truck. So yeah, maybe bring a friend if you decide to buy one of these. Now that I've spent some time with this chair, I can honestly say it's a nice chair. It is on the pricey side, I won't sugarcoat it. That's a lot of coin to drop on a gaming chair. But if you use the promo code down below, you do get a pretty decent discount. One of the nice things about it is how adjustable everything is. You can adjust the back a couple of different ways, along with the height. And it's very precise as to how much you can adjust this. It's not just like there's a couple of settings that are maybe an inch and a half apart. I feel like you can get right down to very precise settings. Like if there's just one spot that's a 1/4 inch more at an angle, you could totally set it to that and it'll hold that setting. You don't have to commit to like being too far forward or too far back. You can also adjust the height, and I feel like there's a lot more range here than what you get with just a basic office chair. Also, the armrests have a couple of different ways to adjust them to get it just lined up with your keyboard. You can go up or down, but you can also adjust the angle a little bit if you need to. Also, they went all in on magnets with this thing, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. On the one hand, you've got this head pillow that you can kind of put anywhere with the use of a magnet. But then also the armrests are magnets, and sometimes they just randomly come off when I go to get up out of the chair. It makes it a little easier to assemble, I guess, but it's just kind of weird to me. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Also, the instruction manual even warns you about getting disk drives and storage devices right up next to it just because the magnets are not good for them at all. So, just watch out for that. The version they sent me just has hardened kind of plastic on the armrests, and if I had it to do over again, I think I would have wanted the softer PU leather material. These are a little rigid. I'm not crazy about them, but they're not bad. In fact, the whole chair is much more rigid than my older Office Depot special chair, though. But I actually feel like that is a little bit better for my posture, since that way I'm not all slouched down in the chair when I'm spending hours editing a video. There's also a lumbar pillow that I don't know if it's supposed to have a magnet in it as well, like the head pillow, but mine didn't, and honestly, I found that I just didn't use it at all. You might like it though, so it's cool to have the option. All in all, this is a pretty solid chair that's built like a tank. If nothing else, I feel like this chair isn't going to fall apart on me in a few years, so that's a good thing. Anyway, thanks to EWIN for sending me the chair, and if you are interested in one of these chairs, I'll put a link with a special discount code down in the description below. Now, let's get back to Nintendo Power. Howard and Nestor. Oh, it looks like this week they are doing a write-up of Deja Vu. I used to skip Howard and Nestor when I would read Nintendo Power when I first started reading it. I would kind of skip over it or just not really pay that much attention to it until I realized that there were actually hints for the games kind of loosely embedded into the comic. So if you actually sit here and read these and read what's happening, there's some little hints that they would throw in there about what you needed to do in order to get through a certain part of the game. So Deja Vu, if you've ever watched my show before, you know that I love the Mac Venture games. And Deja Vu was the point-and-click adventure game along with Shadowgate and Uninvited. And in Deja Vu, you're playing a grizzled detective who has amnesia and has been framed for murder, and you're trying to figure out what happened. So you're searching for clues, and you're going around into like seedy bars, and there's a part in the game where you find a car, and you're going through the glove box, and you're finding like pictures and evidence in the glove box. And then at one point, if you try to start that car in the game, it blows up. So this is telling you like, hey, don't start that car because somebody rigged a car bomb in this. Or the part here with the alligators in the sewers, that actually happens in the game, and you have to kind of like you have to be careful when you go down in the sewers. Or it's telling you where to go. Like here, I think it's telling you, let's see. Take me to Joe's Bar on Peoria Street. Make it snappy. Sure, pal. I know the place. I know everything in this town. So yeah, it's kind of going through some of the different locations of the game. One trick that I always tell people about these games is there's always a place in the Mac Venture games where you can just throw all of your items away. Because there's always a whole bunch of items that you don't need to use. And they're kind of just thrown in there as red herrings. But the catch is, at least on the NES version, it won't let you throw away an item that you actually need. So let's say you've picked up, 24 different items in Deja Vu. You could sit there and go through and try to use all those different items for to solve different puzzles throughout the game. Or you just go down in the sewers and throw all the items into the water with the alligators, and then it won't let you throw away the items that you have to hold on to. It'll say, no, wait, don't do it. So that's just a little tip to kind of cheat at MacVenture games. It'll save you some time. That way you don't sit there and spin your wheels trying to use items that have no purpose in the game. You also have to throw some evidence away. In Deja Vu specifically, there's some evidence that incriminates. It's falsely planted evidence, but it incriminates your main character, Ace Harding, and you have to throw that away in the sewer to help clear your name. So, good deal. All right, subscription bonus. The first player's guide will debut in April and lead you through. Oh, so yeah, the player's guides were coming out. So you had ones for the Mario games, Mega Man, Castlevania, Ninja Turtles. And this was, what was this? 1991, I think is when this issue came out. Boy, 1991. So where were you in April of 1991? I would have been close to turning 10 years old when this came out. So I am old. Okay. Anyway, Totally Rad on the NES. This came out by Jaleco. Surviving magic seemed like a totally rad idea to young Jake from Southern Cal. Under the tubular tutelage of the great Zebediah Pong, lessons were going well until totally grotesque creatures from the underworld attacked. Now Jake is the only hope for salvation of the surface world. Jake isn't defenseless, though. He has learned many spells. Healing, time warping, transforming, and energy blasting. His skills will be tested in 12 sections of running, leaping, and flying action. And wait till you get a load of the size of the subterranean leaders. They're totally titanic. So, Totally Rad. Another platformer. This one gives you, there's a boatload of magic spells you can learn. Stop time, fire, water, wind, and in each one, there's certain areas where you're going to want to use, like there's certain ones where the enemies are susceptible to one thing or the other. So this one is not like Power Blade. You have to go through the levels in a certain order. Now graphically, they gave this a 3.7. I thought this was a really pretty game to look at. The graphics I thought looked really good. Yeah, it kind of looks like a Mega Man game. But look at these bosses. I mean, look at these. I mean, these bosses are incredible looking. Biclopter. Biclopter? Is that what that's called? Your first step to triumph here is to cripple the Biclopter by blowing away his leg. Then change into the eagle and fly to the upper left-hand corner. See, so each of the power-ups has a specific purpose with these boss fights. The only problem with this game, like I say, graphically it looks really good. It's got some parallax scrolling. But your character moves incredibly slow. And I don't know if that's because maybe the graphics are maybe it's just a limitation of the system. The problem is that the enemies all still seem to move at full speed, so it makes the game very, I feel like, unnecessarily challenging more than it already needed to be. And it kind of, to me, it made it not fun, which is a shame because I think it was a cool idea. You've got some kind of original storylines. It's got some Ninja Gaiden cut scenes, but with more of a sense of humor to it. But I felt like maybe I don't know. I had a hard time with the control on this, and I was playing this on a Mister on a CRT, so this wasn't like a latency situation. Some of this stuff was just there's like no way to avoid damage on some of this. I felt like, or maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know, but this is one of those games that there was a lot of these in Nintendo Power. These games that were more fun to read about than they were to actually play. But I felt like this is one of those games that, and maybe I'd have been a bit more forgiving of it 20 years ago. Or playing this as a little kid, but trying to play through it now was just more frustrating than fun. Maybe if I spend a little bit more time with it, maybe I could get used to the controls. But I just felt like your character moved painfully slow. Or maybe there's a ROM hack that'll just kind of speed up your character a little bit and just make it seem a little more even with the rest of the enemies in the game. But still, it's a pretty game to look at. Look at that boss. That is awesome looking. I remember seeing this as a kid thinking, wow, this game must be incredible. And I mean, it just that's a cool looking boss. So was this the final boss? Edoji spits fireballs in circular motion. Hop to it and avoid those powerful projectiles. You can fake him out by jumping, but you'll want to keep your feet on the ground so you can blast his feet, which are his only weak point. Be excellent, and you will be most triumphant. Okay, Bill and Ted. All right. So anyway, totally rad. It's worth checking out, but definitely don't like overpay to play it. Maybe you like it better than I did. I don't know. Uh, I want to like it. It's a pretty game, but it was just I struggled with the controls on it. So be curious to know what you thought about it. Classified information. This was always like the first thing that I opened up because there was like a chance that maybe there'd be some cheat codes for some of the games that I already had. So we got a stage select for Turtles 2. And these stage select codes, I've come to appreciate cheat codes and stage select codes a lot more as a dad than I did as a kid myself. I always, I tried to beat the game reasonably as well as I could on my own without having to use a cheat. I'd only use a cheat if I had to. That being said, as a dad of 5-year-old twins who just want to sit down and play a game, and they're not very good at video games yet. I mean, I will say that Luke is getting pretty good at video games. Noah, he's just kind of happy to be there. He likes sitting there and playing with Papa in the office and playing the games, but he sometimes he'll just set the controller down in the middle of a boss fight. And he'll just be like, I'm going to watch you guys do it. It's like, oh okay, thanks for your help, buddy. Why don't you just hang back and stretch? And then me and Luke will take out Super Shredder or whatever. And but I like some of these games were really tough to play for them, and we try to limit their screen time anyway because they're only 5. So we don't sit there for hours. At most, maybe 1 or 2 hours a week that we'll play a game together. And most of the time, I'm trying to keep them outside and keep them out hacking around outside and get some fresh air and stuff. But so I want to make the most of that time when we sit down together. So being able to throw in a cheat code and like pick up where we left off is a massive quality of life improvement. Or like in Turtles 3, there's a stage select code, and you can also put it on like an easy mode. And that just makes it fun for them because they're 5. All right, we're not trying to go for some high score or go for some video game record here. Like we're just trying to play video games together for an hour on a Sunday morning. So being able to throw on a cheat code for my smaller kids who aren't quite up for the challenge yet is very helpful. Adventure Island, Star Tropics. I love Star Tropics. I love that game. I need to redo the video on that. I did a video a long time ago on Star Tropics, and I wasn't happy with it and took it down. And that's one that I need to revisit at some point. So let's see what else we got. We got Unlimited Continues for Silver Surfer. You're gonna need them. Dragon Warrior, Shadow of the Ninja, Self-Destruct on Metal Storm. While the leaders of the advanced stages of this space thriller may be difficult to defeat, the machine at the end of the first stage will literally self-destruct if you give it enough time. When you get to the end of the stage, stay in a safe spot just left of center and wait. In less than 2 minutes, the machine falls apart on its own accord. Defeating the other machines, though, will require much more work. Wow. Nice. Wanted. Special Agents, a popular activity among Nintendo game experts, is developing tips and strategies. If you'd like to share your own special tips with us, send them in. Choose your own agent number, and be sure to include it with your tips. Our address is Nintendo Power, classified information, etc., etc. I'd be curious, did anybody ever actually send anything in? I feel like I might have tried to send something in once or twice, and I'm sure it never got used, and I probably wrote something really stupid, and they just laughed at it, and but who knows? Next up is Swordmaster on the NES. This was released by Activision And you can really tell, as we're in 1991 here, you can really tell that graphically they were starting to figure the NES out at this point. Developers were starting to master the hardware as far as what the graphics could do. Um, I think as we look at all of these games, this was, you know, graphically, all of the games that we've looked at this point look really good. This game has very large character sprites. I mean, these are it plays a lot better than Totally Rad does. I feel like the characters, your main character moves like he should. The enemies move around. I mean, the animations are all really good. A Clash of Steel, journey back to the days of yore as a master swordsman in Activision's new action-adventure. There you'll find that the kingdom of Elidar has been laid waste by Vishok, the serpent god. Totally not Jakio from Ninja Gaiden. No one save you remains to challenge him. On guard! So, I mean, it's a straightforward story as far as trying to hack your way through a bunch of undead medieval monsters, and you've got oversized character sprites. And one of the crazy things that jumps out at me is, I mean, there's like zombies in this game, and there's actually you've got like a zombie corpse that's like a half of a corpse just dragging itself across the ground. That's sort of amazing considering what Nintendo allowed and didn't allow on on this on games back then. You know, considering what else they censored, especially with stuff like in Castlevania, the censorship that they had on those games. I'm just kind of surprised that that one slipped under the radar. uh, this game is very. I think this game is very pretty to look at. It does have some issues. It's very difficult, and that's not necessarily a knock on it. Some of the difficulty is earned. You like, this is one of those games where, like, in one stage you may fight a boss, and then in the next stage that boss is actually just one of the random enemies that you fight along the way. Like, he's not even a boss or even a mini boss. He's just one of the enemies now, and now you got to fight him again and figure out how to fight him. And even just the regular enemies, it takes some mastery to they're not one-hit kills. There's a few of the flying enemies that are one-hit kills, but a lot of these guys, you got to like stop and basically have a little sword fight with them. So you really got to get to know, you really got to get comfortable with your character and how he moves and the attacks. You've got like a different overhead attack that you can throw, and then there's a sidearm attack. It's not just as simple as just, okay, just spam the attack button and mow your way through. You've got to know what you're doing. And now, and that part of the difficulty, I think, is really well done. But then there's other parts where there's like these weird little orb things that they put over these chasms, and they just knock you off. And like, every review I've read said they hated these things. So, like, I know I'm not alone on this. These things are annoying as crap. Like, why are who put that there? Uh, so there's good and there's bad with this game. I like the cutscenes. I like the character innovations. I like the concept. I like that they tried to do something a little different with the way you fight the enemies, and each enemy is kind of like its own little mini battle within the context of the level. But then there's stuff like that it's just like, maybe if I spend a little bit more time with that, I'll figure out how to get around those. But that was enough to make me rage quit the game. Was these little annoying things? They put them perfectly right over the hole, and then it just knocks you in. So, which is unfortunate, because I think that they were onto something with this, and it looks like this game does have kind of a little bit of a cult following to it. Um, the people, but I think this game went under a lot of people's radar too, just because it wasn't one of the main, uh, you know, it wasn't one of the main hack and slash monstery kind of games. I mean, this was going to get buried under Castlevania or something like that. And but then you've got stuff like this, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do with that? This is annoying. Um, Other than that, I think it's an entertaining game. I think it had a lot of potential, but yeah, having and it's weird too that your character can't go backwards. He can't even look backwards. You are going forwards, buddy. But I like what they were going for here. I just yeah, it's certainly not perfect, but it's interesting. See, and this is a situation where having the Nintendo Power would be helpful too, because it does give you a little bit of a context as to how. So, like here with Knights of the Serpent, when you're fighting this guy, it's a duel of the century. Your best attack is to close in, drop to your knee, and make a quick low jab. Then immediately move back out of the knight's range. Keep repeating this. An alternative is to jump in and attack with the overhead thrust, and then jump back. So again, these enemies, you can't just go in here and expect to spam an attack and mow through it the way you would with a more simplified battle system. This you got to really put some work into mastering your character with this. So I like that part of it. I just don't like some of the level design and what they did. Mostly, I just don't like these stupid ball things. So that's all I got to say about that. But again, awesome article. Like they've got their own special artwork that they did just for this game, and I remember reading about this and thinking that this looked like a lot of fun. Maybe not as fun once you actually sit down and play it, but that's the beauty of having the imagination of a 10-year-old little kid, is you can sit there and read this and think, man, this has got to be like the greatest game ever. Here we go. The British Invasion, a tour of English developers. So yeah, these were these British developers that were releasing games on the NES stateside. You've got some of these I'm sure that you'll recognize. We've got Ocean Software, Rare Limited, Beam Software, then Argonaut Software, and of course, not all of these were a hit. You got RC Pro-Am, developed by Rare. My sons and I love playing that game. It's just a nice, simple little racing game, and they can pick that one up pretty quickly. They still have problems going the wrong direction, but we have fun with that one, and they especially like it when we pick up all the little rockets and everything that you can use to boost your character and stuff, or your car and stuff. But and of course you've got Dragon's Lair. That one is yeah, it is what it is. But then you got Wizards and Warriors by Rare, Magic Johnson's Fast Break. So there's and then Ocean went on to make I thought Ocean made some really, really fun games. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Jurassic Park on Super Nintendo. The music in that game is really, really good. So yeah, let's dig into this. Behind the scenes, you probably instantly recognize names like Nintendo, Data East, Trade West, and Acclaim when it comes to NES games. But have you heard of Rare, Software Creations, Ocean, or Elite? These are just a few of the many development companies that work behind the scenes to create NES and Game Boy games for other publishers. A publisher, also called a licensee of Nintendo video games, has the resources and connections to market and sell a completed video game, but doesn't always have the staff needed to design and program one. And that seems pretty important if you're going to make video games, is having the staff that can actually create a video game. Even those video game publishing companies that do have in-house programmers will often use outside development firms to create some of their games. And it just so happens that many of the best developers for the NES and Game Boy are based in England. Why England? England was as much a part of the personal computer revolution of the early 1980s as the US was, but while the early British PCs enjoyed wide distribution because they were inexpensive and easy to use, they also contained many bugs. British computer enthusiasts took up the challenge and made the best of them. The low cost of these systems, coupled with public support of computer literacy in England, created a generation of users with knowledge and enthusiasm for computer programming. Because so many people use PCs in England, there is a great demand for software and therefore many job opportunities for game designers. The demand for software and the supply of computer programming talent makes England an ideal location for video game developers. So yeah, we've got little write-ups here for each company. There's one for Rare, there's one for Ocean, there's one for Elite. One of the best-known NES development companies in England, Rare Limited, had its start 15 years ago in the coin-op industry. As soon as the NES began to gain popularity, Rare's programmers recognized the potential of the system and created a development system for it, making them the first NES developers outside of Japan. I didn't know that. Rare's premier NES title, Slalom, began a developing publishing partnership with Nintendo that continues to this day. Several early NES classics, such as RC Pro-Am and Wizards and Warriors, are Rare games developed for other publishers, Nintendo and Acclaim. Now the largest developer that specializes in NES games, Rare has completed some 50 games for the NES and Game Boy for a variety of publishers. Between its British offices, located in a 300-year-old building in central England, and its Miami branch, Rare employs 55 artists, programmers, and designers. Rare's programmers are committed to creating the very best games possible in the NES format, and they enjoy the technical challenge of pushing the system to its limits. They are especially proud of Marble Madness, a game they created for Milton Bradley, and the high-speed three-dimensional scrolling is something many said couldn't be done on the NES. The same technology was used in Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Rare's game designing philosophy is fewer products, better quality. Of the 9 projects Rare's designers currently have in the works, they are most excited about Battletoads, which will be published by Trade West. In designing Battletoads, they had maximum creative freedom and planned much more than just an NES game. All of the characters were given backgrounds with the detail of a movie script. Rare and Trade West are hoping that Battletoads will be the next big hit in the NES. With as much tie-in potential as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we'll have to wait and see. This is interesting here under the article about Elite. It says developers provide more than just the game design. They often help do research on what kind of games will sell, and they provide support during and after the design process. Before Nintendo will stamp its seal of quality on a game, it must be bug-free. Technical quality is the responsibility of the publisher of the game, and for that they need the assistance of the developer. As you can imagine, all of this isn't cheap. Although prices vary from developer to developer, it would cost at least $75,000 just to get one game developed. This is not including any production or marketing costs. I think that's kind of funny. So you're telling me that every game that has the Nintendo seal of quality on it is bug-free? I beg to differ. When I was a little kid, and you would see that seal of quality, this little seal right here, you'd see that on a game. I used to think that meant that there was a room full of little kids beta testing all of these games just to make sure that they were fun. Like if you saw that seal on there was a whole bunch of little kids that said, "Yep, this one's fun. Go ahead and send them to the presses, boys. This is a good one." Little did I know that just meant that the company was willing to pay the licensing fee to Nintendo to have all the official logos on there. I didn't know how capitalism worked and all that stuff. I was a naive little kid. All right, anyway, SCAT, Special Cybernetic Attack Team, where no man has gone and lived. The Special Cybernetic Attack Team, or SCAT for short, is on a desperate mission to save Earth. Sound familiar? Natsumi's first release of an NES game in America doesn't break any new ground in the storytelling, but the 5 blistering levels of action and exciting 2-player option will keep action fans glued to their TVs. From New York to outer space, you'll light up the sky. Extra maps and strategies for defeating the higher levels are on the back of this issue's poster. And this is deep right here. The main characters, Arnold and Sigourney. Really? That's your main characters? That is awesome. They didn't even try. They just went right for it. We're going for the 2 biggest action stars of the time right here, and please buy our game. Arnold, he was an average Joe before the president called. Now with cybernetic enhancements, he is more dangerous than any man on Earth. And then there's Sigourney. She is the match of any man or alien. Seriously. A master of weapons and tactics, and her bionic abilities are more than skin deep. So there you go. So yeah, I spent a little bit of time with this game for this episode, and it's all right. You know, it's not great. I could see this being fun as a 2-player game. You know, with some friends on a weekend. It's there's certainly better games in the genre, but it's not bad. I liked the graphics. I felt like it was a little choppy, and I don't know if maybe I just was playing. Maybe the version that I had of it wasn't the cleanest dump of the game. I was playing this on a Mister, so I felt like it was a little choppy, a little slow down-y, but you know, it. You could do better, you could do worse. It's kind of that middle of the road game, but once again, look at that picture. That picture's awesome. Even if the game was terrible, that's a cool picture. I don't know if that was was that actually on the box art, or was that I'll have to double check in post, but I don't know if that was actually the box art, or if they did a variant of the box art, but it's that's cool looking. Even though he looks nothing like Arnold, and she looks nothing like Sigourney, it's still a cool picture. It's cool. And then you've got, my son got into this the other day and just about got this poster tore off, but, But we've got, so we've got more maps here of, there's a battleship, we got an orbiting platform. Scat has all the action and more to keep you alien hunters happy. The graphics are top-notch, too. Well, that's debatable. And there's even a computer-generated voice you can understand. Now, that is cool. They've actually got some digitized voices in there. It's pretty neat.
You must destroy them. The Earth is counting on you. Good luck.
2 experienced couch crusaders playing simultaneously won't have too much trouble, but if you're alone, watch out. I like that. Couch crusaders. Nice. And then what do we got on the back here? We got the SimCity poster, I think is what this is. I'll see if I can put that up on Still Store. This probably would have been, I wonder if this was the NES version of SimCity, like before. I wonder if they had committed to doing the Super Nintendo version of SimCity yet, or if that actually was with Nintendo in mind. It doesn't say, but either way, SimCity was coming. So I did a separate video on SimCity on the NES a while back. Most of you probably remember SimCity was on Super Nintendo, but there actually was an NES prototype that recently was acquired. Well, recently, a few years ago, was acquired at at an auction, and the Video Game History Foundation was able to get their hands on one of them and dump the ROM so that everybody could see what it would have been like. And so I did an in-depth video on that a while back that you can check out about the prototype version of SimCity on the NES. It was interesting. It's not perfect by any stretch. It was a prototype, and we don't really know for sure how far along they were with that one. So it gets a little, especially if your city's a little bigger, it gets a little glitchy. You could tell the system's really kind of struggling with it. But it was cool to see. I mean, it looked like they were pretty far along with it. I mean, especially with just kind of the 8-bit look to it as opposed to the Super Nintendo look. I think the Super Nintendo version of SimCity is just awesome, and that is one that I can still just randomly pick up and play sometimes. But it was just really cool to see an NES version of it. Okay, so this was their big Game Boy feature. We've got there's several games here for Game Boy that they're going over. We've got R-Type, Ultima, Mickey's Dangerous Chase, Pac-Man, Caesar's Palace, and WWF Superstars. The Sword of Hope. I did a full video on this one a while back. I liked this game. There's probably no earthly reason to play this game in the year 2026, but if I had this game as a kid, I would have loved it. It's a lot like Shadowgate. It plays a lot like the MacVenture games, and the artwork even looks similar. Like some of these doors and stuff looks right out of Shadowgate. It's like Shadowgate meets Final Fantasy to a bit, because you've got commands like look and open and hit, but then you also have random battles that you get into with monsters, and your character can level up, and then there's different shops that you can buy stuff from. So this was not made by Kimco. It looks like a Kimco game with the McVenture kind of elements to it, but it was made by a different company, and I would have enjoyed this game as a kid. There's really no good reason to go back and play it now unless you just, boy, I'd like to play a McVenture kind of game, but I don't want to play Shadowgate for the 57th time. Then, maybe go pick this one up. But this is cool because they've got maps and everything, which would be really helpful. It'd be really easy to lose track of where you're going in this game, because and like they're showing this they make it look like this is the whole screen, but actually the part where it's showing what you can see is so tiny. So imagine reading that on a Game Boy screen. As a little kid, I probably would have been willing to commit to that. As an adult, there's no way that I would pick this up and play this. Maybe on an emulator, or on like Super Game Boy, where you could sit down on a TV and actually read it. But that would have been really hard on the eyes as far as a Game Boy game goes. But hats off to him for trying. It wasn't a bad game, and I enjoyed playing it when I did the video for it. So I don't know. What did you think? Did you play that one? And then there's Ultima. This is another one that it's well done on the Game Boy for what it is. It's maybe a little bit too much for a Game Boy game, but there's it's one of those things where you have to look at this through the lens of when it came out. Being able to pick up a sweeping role-playing game like this and put it in your pocket and take it with you on a family trip is a big deal, and it's well done for what it is. Now, would you want to go back and play this now? Well, maybe not. And is it a little too, for being a Game Boy game, is it a little too complex for what it is? I will say that as a kid, I had the Final Fantasy Legend games. I had Final Fantasy Legend 2 and 3. I loved those games, and I loved playing. I played through them on Game Boy. At one point, I did have a Super Game Boy, and I may have played them a little bit on there. But I mean, I remember playing Final Fantasy Legend 2 and 3 on like long car rides and stuff, and I thought they were great, and I had no problem playing them. But those were a bit more simplified. I feel like there's just a little bit more going on with the Ultima games, with just in the way the inventory works, and the maps are a little bit more convoluted. So, but they're well done. The music's good. So yeah, if you like Ultima, here you go. Ultima on Game Boy. You can take it with you wherever you go. And then there's R-Type. This for a Game Boy game as a shooter, this plays pretty well. The graphics, obviously it's a Game Boy game, but like the big oversized boss fights and everything look really cool. I felt like it was playing reasonably well for a Game Boy game. Now, obviously it's not going to be as good as the Super Nintendo version, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid port, or not even a port, but I thought it was a solid little space shooter. So yeah, if you like space shooters and you had a Game Boy, this would have been a fun game to have. Certainly it's not going to be as good as the Super Nintendo version, but this would get you by on a car ride. This wasn't too bad. And then there's Mickey's Dangerous Chase. Oh no, where's Minnie's present? Mickey has bought a gift for his pal gal Minnie, but the mean and jealous Pete has stolen it. Can you help the pint-sized twosome find Pete and get Minnie's special gift back? You'll have to get by some pretty wild animals as you chase Pete through Mickey's hometown. But with help from your pal Goofy and his special clues, you can't go wrong in this latest Disney adventure from Capcom. So I remember reading about this. I remember seeing this article, and you know, I don't didn't really care much about playing a Mickey Mouse game, but I spent a little bit of time with this, and it's not a bad little platformer. You you know, it's got nice sized, kind of oversized graphics, and the play control. Play control was always a big problem with Game Boy games. It seems like even Super Mario Land, your character kind of slides around all over the screen and stuff, and it feels like they didn't really get it dialed in until Mario Land 2. Kind of the same thing with this. Like the play control is actually really solid for a platformer, which is what you need. So you know, you can pick up the bricks and throw them at the bad guys are all just barking dogs apparently, but you know, it's not bad. It's not great. There's probably no earthly reason to play it right now in the year of our Lord 2026, but you know, it's all right. This one, WWF Superstars, I spent a little bit of time with this one, and you know, it is what it is. It you know, play controls kind of all over the place. You're kind of just mashing buttons and not really sure what you're doing. You can't like bounce off the turnbuckle or anything like that. Everything is static on the screen. You can go out of the ring, so but that's, you know, there's not much to it. So I don't know. It's other than seeing the characters and their little digitized game bit versions of their faces, I can't say that there's necessarily a good reason to go and play this game. But it's nice that they tried, I guess. So look, you even got Ultimate Warrior right here. Load up the spaceship with the rocket fuel. All right. Pac-Man on the Game Boy. I spent a little bit of time with this. It is. Oh, I just now realized that this was even in here. One of the things that I didn't like about the game was that the way it plays, the screen is like zoomed in, so it's not a static view of the map. It's like would be kind of zoomed in, and your POV would kind of just be following along with Pac-Man. But it says here that you can either get a close-up of the action or choose a full screen view to keep an eye on those pesky ghosts. So yeah, full disclosure, I did not realize there was a way to change the view. Otherwise, I would that significantly changes my score of the game. Because actually, I thought otherwise. This was kind of a fun little game. The animations were okay. What really stood out to me the most with this was the sound effects. I thought they did a really nice job getting the sound effects. Like, it sounds very similar for a Game Boy game. It touches a lot of the same notes that the arcade version hits, which is a big part of of what gets you into that. That's what kind of gets you into that mode when you're playing those games, is those arcade sound effects. I thought they did a fantastic job putting those sound effects into a Game Boy cartridge. I thought it sounded really good. Not bad. And then another one that's kind of along the same ilk, Caesar's Palace. This was I think there was an NES and a Super NES version of this as well. But you can play some different poker games. There's slot machines. There's a blackjack table, and you got the poker machine, slot machine. You can even go to the bathroom, I guess, if you want to. And then if you need money, you could just go to the cashier and get more money. So yeah, that's just one of those time waster games. You know, if you like billiards, or not billiards, but if you like, if you like poker games, casino games, this wouldn't have been a bad one to have in your Game Boy stash. Ooh, we got the Game Boy Counselor's Corner here. So, this one, they were all about Final Fantasy Legend. So I've only played the second one and the third one. I've not played the first Final Fantasy Legend. But one of the things that I loved about the Final Fantasy games was the soundtrack. Final Fantasy Legend 2 has some of the best music on Game Boy I have ever heard. Every track on that cartridge is just an emotional masterpiece, I felt like. It really takes you into the story. The story is pretty simple, but the music is what really takes you there and makes it a fun place to spend some time in. And then it's just enough of an RPG with battles and, items that you choose from, but the levels are all straightforward. You don't really necessarily have to think too much about it. You can just kind of, at least with the second one and the third one, you can just, you can pretty reasonably find your way through without having to necessarily resort to drawing a map. Just it's open world, but the game gently guides you where you need to go. So it's not that complicated. Coming soon on the Game Boy. Oh, Faceball 2000. There you go. That I remember seeing this. I remember seeing this exact article as a kid and thinking that looked so cool on a Game Boy. Of course, I thought it was gonna. I didn't know if it was gonna be all chunky and pixely and only run at 2 frames per second. I was envisioning something that like ran buttery smooth 60 frames per second. I'm sure my imagination filled in something that was totally impossible. And then Mega Man. Mega Man on Game Boy is really good. It's well done. I had Dr. Wily's Revenge, and it was a really good one. Soundtrack is really good on that one as well. What was the Game Boy top 10? What do we have? Super Mario Land was still number 1. Mario continues to rock the top of the charts. This one could be a candidate for the number 1 Game Boy game of all time. And then Super Mario Land 2 came out. Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan, Final Fantasy Legend. Wow, that's cool. That's a 3 bangers right in a row there. Tetris, Batman, Paperboy, Gargoyle's Quest, Castlevania. I don't know about that one. Dr. Mario, no thank you. And Double Dragon rounds out the top 10. All right. Atlantic City Moves. Extra, extra. Read all about it. It's Monopoly. This is kind of funny. What can you really say about a Monopoly game? It's just Monopoly on the NES. So they've got all these little, funny headlines in here like, tough choice, taxes or food. No dinner this year, kids. Read my lips. You have to pay income taxes. When you played the board game, it was usually easier to pay the $200 than figure out what your assets amounted to. In the NES version, though, bookkeeping is made easy. When you access your main menu, you'll see your total assets in the upper right corner. With a little quick figuring, you can decide whether you're better off paying $200 or 10%. So yeah, I was always kind of fascinated with the idea of having a board game converted into a Nintendo game or a computer game. I remember I had a Monopoly game on computer. I had it on Tandy. And it was fun to play, because, if you couldn't get your parents to play a game with you, and I was an only child, at least you could still play Monopoly. You could just play against the computer. So it still gave you a chance to play the game even without, even if you didn't have any friends. Ruthless landlord seizes boardwalk in settlement. Looks like a good spot for a landfill, says new owner. In the wheeling and dealing world of Monopoly, the object is to bankrupt your opponents before they can bankrupt you. Be tough. Play against up to 8 real or computer opponents. Of course, you can always try to play on the sympathies of real people, but don't try it with any of the 8 opponents generated by the game. Instead, get to know the business savvy of each. Arthur, for example, drives a hard bargain, but Maud insists on luxury and wastes her money shamelessly. When board game creator Charles B. Darrow first took his idea to Parker Brothers in 1934, they unanimously rejected it. Too complicated, they said, too many flaws. Undaunted, Darrow made Monopoly boards by hand and sold them himself. Lots of them. When Parker Brothers learned how successful Monopoly sales were, they reconsidered and bought the rights to it. Family estate auctioned. Widow, children out in the cold. Brr, says Mom. That's messed up. You can find some real bargains at auctions. If an opponent lands on unowned property and can't afford to buy it, the bank will auction it automatically. Sometimes you can get the property for a song, but if someone else bids against you, the price can soar to well above regular cost. Know the value of the property and its worth to you. You can't bid more than you have, but don't give up without a fight. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that, we never played Monopoly that way, I guess, when I played with other people as a kid, but the computer tries to do a lot of wheeling and dealing. You can, it'll try to negotiate trades with you nonstop. I felt like after the first 2 rounds, it was constantly trying to haggle either between other computer players or to me, depending on what property that I had. So I thought that was interesting. I thought this was a nice little digital recreation of the game. Like I said, I had a version of it on computer a long time ago, and this was on like a Tandy 1000 computer. So I mean, it was pretty bare bones. Whereas I think Monopoly translates nicely to an NES game. I still think it's, if you've got a bunch of people and you actually have the game, it's better to get the physical board out and play with that. But if you didn't have one, or if you just wanted to play Monopoly by yourself, this was a nice little way to play. The colors and everything all look really nice in NES 8-bit format, I felt like. And all the little, there's not many cutscenes, but what there is, I feel like looks pretty good. So this is a nice little port if you like Monopoly. So I feel like it's a nice little version of it. Local man swaps property for Elvis tickets. It sounded like a good deal at the time. And then, yeah, I remember seeing these pictures as a kid and thinking they looked cool. Bad business, high roller squanders fortune. Where did it all go? And he's eating fish bones out of the garbage, because that was every cartoon, was just that, like, for whatever reason, there was just always fish bones in the garbage, I guess. That was every cartoon. Also, if you do play this, if you do play the NES version, there's lots of ways to customize the game. You can play just a straight game, but there's a nice little menu that uh you can set everything up the way you want it. You can place houses, you can customize the board however you want. So maybe you started a game and then needed to pick it up later or something. You could translate everything in there, or if you just wanted to play out a certain scenario and see how it works. So lots of options. Moving on to NES Achievers. We got So a lot of these was just people that beat the game and then sent it in. I never did get my name in. I sent my name in a couple times, and it was always, you'd have to take the picture and set it up just right and cover the lights, and then you wouldn't even know if the picture took until like 3 weeks later when you got it back from the developers lab. Uh, so yeah, I tried. There's some really high scores in here for Tetris, Skate or Die, Tombs and Treasure, Pinball Quest. These people just beat the game. Yeah, like this whole page is just people that finished the game, like all the way to here. Somebody actually beat Back to the Future 2 and 3. Oh wow. Way to go, Derek Goslin from Springfield, Massachusetts. Counselor's Corner, The Immortal. Where is the third gem in level 2? See, now, like, the way that they took these pictures, it almost looked like they took this with a camera. Like, it almost looks like they took these screenshots with a camera. You could see a little bit of the like the color banding, almost like they had to get it really close to the monitor, maybe. Uh, I wonder how they made these screenshots back then. Almost all of them look like they're like these, especially in these pictures. It looks like they took it with a standard camera of some kind. It wouldn't have been digital. It would have had to have been on film. So yeah, the amount of work that they put into this is pretty crazy. The Immortal, I spent a little bit of time with that game for a separate video that I did a while back. I feel like I would have loved that game as a kid, but the NES version has some issues. It runs a little wonky. I loved the whole isometric look. I'm a big fan of the original Diablo. I played the crap out of Diablo when I was younger, and that's one of those games that I'll still go back and randomly play it. So the idea that a game like that existed on the NES, I would have been fascinated by that. Although I didn't actually play Diablo until much later when I was done with the NES, but still, if a game like that was available to play on the NES, I would have been all about it. What else do we got? Destiny of the Emperor, Ninja Turtles. How do I get through Area 3 of the Turtles' original adventure? You don't. That's how, Timmy. You just don't. Nobody did. How do I find my way through the spaceship in Chapter 7? Yeah, the game gets insanely difficult from like level 6 on. And then the spaceship levels are crazy hard. But there's some hidden, and I think this shows you how to find them, but there's there's some hidden little areas that you can get to that have super powerful guns that you could find, or like little ray guns, and those make it a lot more tolerable. I did actually, as a kid, I could not beat Star Tropics without a Game Genie, but as an adult, I actually did go back through and managed to beat Star Tropics without any kind of Game Genie or anything like that. And I did it on original hardware too, which was so yeah, it is possible. But yeah, like something like this would have been really helpful to be able to know where to look to find all of the extra weapons and everything that you can get. Players Poll Contest. Ooh. Win a trip for 4 to a NASCAR race. I am fully convinced that nobody ever actually won these trips. Please answer the following questions on the postcard provided below. Then enter our Players Poll Contest by sending it in. Do you own a Game Boy? Yes or no? Like, I feel like if you answered no to number 2, like if you answered no, they immediately throw your postcard in the trash. Do you currently, how many games do you own? And if you currently subscribe to Nintendo Power, do you plan to renew your subscription? If you don't, you will not win this contest. Grand prize includes a trip for 4 to an official NASCAR race to see Bill Elliott and other NASCAR greats tear up the track. You also get Bill Elliott's Super NASCAR Challenge and a crew jacket. Oh, here we go. The top 30. This was always, I remember always looking at this and always, I don't know why, I was always be fascinated to see which games were still at the top. It almost kind of started to feel like a lifetime achievement award for some of these games, because like Mario 3 was at the top forever. Way to go, Mario. It's another month in control of the top 10 for our favorite plumbers. And I never fully understood what was the criteria for this. Was this based on sales? Was this based on reviews? I mean, it's not like they were trying to find social media didn't exist, so it's not like they were kind of checking the pulse of people online or anything like that. So I always wondered what this was based off of, or if they just picked the games that everybody knows and was like, yeah, see, Mega Man 3, that's an awesome game. Ninja Turtles, oh yeah, that's awesome. You got Final Fantasy, Dr. Mario, Dragon Warrior, Crystalis, Legend of Zelda was on there for 32 months. And then some other ones, Mega Man 2, Star Tropics should be higher than that. Come on. So yeah, I wonder if it's based off of sales. Had something to do with it. Titles that are new to the top 30. These are the ones to watch. Games that are moving up fast, and favorites with long-lasting appeal that place month after month. So yeah, seems like most of these games had just been there forever because the NES had been around for a while. So yeah, you got Metroid, Ultima, Quest of the Avatar. Ooh, Jeopardy 25th Anniversary Edition, Battle of Olympus. Battle of Olympus, I went back and played that a couple years ago. I remember seeing the commercials for it and being really confused. Like, was this another sequel to Legend of Zelda? But it's actually it's a fun game in its own right. It's just kind of its own thing. Definitely worth checking out. And let's see, what do we got? Players picks, pros picks, dealers picks. This must be scores of games ranked lower than 30 were included in totals shown in top 30. So players picks, Mario 3, pros picks. Ooh, interesting. Mario 3 didn't even make the top 10 in the pros picks. Pros pick, who's a pro? You got Mega Man 3, Final Fantasy, Crystalis, Destiny of the Emperor, The Immortal. Interesting. Star Tropics is up there. I like this list. And then dealers picks, Super Mario Bros. 3, probably just based on sales. Dr. Mario, Wheel of Fortune, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So 2 Turtles games in the top there. WrestleMania, Tecmo Bowl, Blaster Master all the way down at 27. Come on. Shadow of the Ninja Turtles. The first Ninja Gaiden, still on there. Way down low, but still there. Little Nemo, the Dream Master. That's a fun game. Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, right back to back. There you go. Ninja Gaiden 2. It's a good list. See, now playing, April of 1991. This issue's review of recent releases that didn't quite score feature coverage includes a look at some very highly anticipated games. It's up to you to decide whether they've lived up to their potential. Stop by your favorite store to see if any of them are up your alley. So you got Double Dragon 3. So yeah, they didn't do a full feature on Double Dragon 3. They just kind of talk about it a little bit. Bart versus the Space Mutants. I owned this game as a kid. I remember I always thought the cutscenes looked great. It just the style of any of the Simpsons animation translated really well to NES, I thought. The game, I thought the first level was cool. I like the idea of having to go around spray painting everything. That it didn't make a lick of sense. Why would the aliens need something that's purple? But you have to go around and find ways to destroy or change the color of anything. That the aliens need purple things for their taking over the Earth device. And so you got to go around, like you got to spray paint a window. You got to find, there was a lot to do with spray painting. You have to use bottle rockets at one point. I thought it was kind of cool. I liked that you could buy stuff from the store. There was an aspect to it that was kind of taken from They Live. There was these special sunglasses that you could get, and the sunglasses would show you who was an alien or who was not, depending on who you were looking like. So you could put the sunglasses on and see if somebody was one of the Space Mutants or not. So I always thought that was kind of cool. Definitely not a perfect game, but I spent my hard-earned allowance money on it because I was a sucker, and I got some enjoyment out of it. It was all right. RoboCop 2. You've got Base Wars. I never did play RoboCop 2, so let me know if that one is worth checking out or not. The graphics look kind of a muddy mess, but maybe it's not too bad. Oh, there it is, The Uninvited. Another great adventure. Kimco Sika continues its successful series of first-person perspective adventures with this visit through the mysterious and danger-filled mansion. Like Shadowgate, there are many elements of magic and otherworldly events in this story. The mansion belongs to a magician and teacher whose star pupil has become too powerful and may be practicing his magic with a desire to do some harm. You stumble upon the house by accident. Driving by with your sister, a shadowy figure appears. You swerve to miss and hit a tree. The story begins as you wake up behind the wheel and find that your sister is missing. There is nowhere else to go but the mansion. It's quite possible your sister is there. Open the mailbox outside the mansion and grab a magic amulet. This will give you the power to explore the mansion, uncover its secrets, and possibly save your sister. Love those games. You know me. You know I love those McVenture games. And look at this. First of all, that's a cool pic. Like that's just a neat looking picture with the detail on the hands and the jail cell and everything. But look at this. There's a freaking monster with a decapitated head, and they put it right in Nintendo Power Magazine. That's amazing. I think, didn't that part end up getting kind of censored in the NES version? Didn't they take out some of the blood? It's actually showing the version with the blood in there. That's crazy that made it into the magazine. I could have swore in the NES version, like in the Japanese version, or perhaps, and like I know for sure on the computer version you could see the blood, but I can't remember. That's crazy that made it in there. Power player tip. The most important thing to remember while playing is to save the game whenever you collect an item or reach a new point. Yeah, basically save the game every time you walk into a room. Danger lurks around every corner, and your journey could end almost instantly. Oh, wow, Zombie Nation. that actually got mentioned in Nintendo Power, Zombie Nation. That's interesting. And Beetlejuice. Bearing a striking resemblance to LGN's A Nightmare on Elm Street, Beetlejuice is yet another action-packed game loosely based on the popular movie. This one has many of the same characters and objects portrayed in the movie, but does not closely follow the story. As Beetlejuice, you must avoid enemies and obstacles and fight your way to the netherworld. So yeah, here you go. Here's all the latest releases, and then here is their Nintendo Power scorecard. For graphics and sound, play control, challenge, theme, and fun. Which one did they say was the most fun? So they gave Monopoly the highest rating for theme and fun. That's interesting. Base Wars got a 3.6. Totally Rad got a 3.7. Power Blade got a 3.7. What about Swordmaster? They gave that one a 3.1. like maybe they felt like it was just kind of repetitive, just kind of going, okay, it's another hack and slash game in medieval times. I don't know. I thought that had a more interesting theme to it than Monopoly. I mean, Monopoly is just a board game, but what do I know? And which one did they give the best graphics to? Double Dragon 3 and RoboCop and Scat? I would strongly disagree on Scat. I was not super impressed with the graphics. Like, mostly just because the game felt like it was performing kind of wonky to my eyes. So, I mean, maybe if you just took a still store of it, it looks pretty good. But so they gave The Uninvited a 3.2 on graphics. Yeah, okay, that's fair. But I thought the music was really good. I feel like graphics and sound, they've got graphics and sound as one category. That should be two separate categories. Because a game could have terrible graphics and still have amazing music. Anyway. All right. Pack Watch. What do we got coming up? Vice Project Doom. I remember that issue of Nintendo Power as well. One of the current trends in NES game design involves packing as many different game activities as memories will allow in a single game pack. Vice Project Doom from American Sammy combines 3 distinct games together with a crime mystery storyline. The action gets wild as Agent Quinn Hart gets in over his head against a force that's bigger than any earthly crime syndicate. As you seek to unravel the puzzles of Project Doom, you'll encounter the game's 3 perspectives on the action. First, you'll race through the streets in a supercharged sports car with Spy Hunter type play. Then it's into the underworld for side view action as you fight your way through exotic locations with a whip, a 44, and grenades. Perfect. Another gameplay view mode has you taking on unusual foes in a first-person view action scene, kind of like Operation Wolf. Wow, yeah, so they really put it all in there, didn't they? The graphics in all modes seemed good in the early version we played, especially the detailed city backgrounds. Animation on the main character Quinn Hart is cool, plus he has some new action moves. For example, he can run in a crouch to dodge bullets as he returns fire, just like all good TV cops can. Oh, and then you got a full page right up here on Battletoads coming up as well. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about Battletoads earlier in the write-up they had on the UK developers, but here we go. Here's a full boy, and like if you were just seeing this for the first time, and you've never played the game before, it's 1991, you're 10, 11 years old, you love Nintendo games, and you're seeing these graphics. Look at how good that looks. Like it's got all these like brain stuff going on in the background, and then each level's a little different. Like here's some rocks and some flames and then some ice. And this kind of almost has like a 3D perspective to it with like if you just looked at that, you'd think, man, Battletoads, that's going to be amazing. It says we've ranted and raved about Battletoads up until now on the strength of the characters and the fact that Rare Limited, one of our favorite developing teams, is designing it. Having finally had a chance to play the game at CES, an early development version, we can confidently say that it looks like Trade West has a hit on their hands. Although the theme of man-sized mutated cold-blooded heroes has been explored before, we think the Battletoads have their own unique humor and style, and the variety of gameplay environments and moves in the game is as good as or better than any NES game so far. The Toad characters, which are large and well animated, are on an intergalactic mission to rescue a kidnapped buddy and, of course, a beautiful princess held captive by the evil siren, the Dark Queen. To get them, they'll journey to the center of the universe and battle a battalion of rotten rodents. Against such monstrous hordes, 2-player play is encouraged. Unlike Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, in Battletoads, the players can interact with each other. And if you get too close when you attack, you may end up accidentally punching your buddy. Although contrary to the goal of the game, an occasional surprise attack is entirely in the spirit of it and can only serve to keep your partner on his toes. Ugh. Also, friendly fire should always be turned off. It's just a personal preference. Or you should at least have the option. Did we mention that the Toads have tons of special moves? Rest easy if you've had a hard time executing a Cyclone Spin or Super Karate Chop in other action games. In Battletoads, the Toads have a different, easy-to-activate special move in each stage. Changing an enemy squashing Wrecking Ball to drop-kicking attacking Furballs, the Battletoads do it all. So yeah, Battletoads. Like, regardless of whether or not you enjoy the game now, yeah, the game is insanely difficult. But at the time, just sitting here fantasizing about this game, like, man, this was going to be an awesome game. Battletoads, like, this is as good as it gets right here. So yeah, I'd be curious to know what everybody thinks about Battletoads now that we know what we got. What do people think of it? I know it's insanely difficult, but it still has a unique charm about it, certainly. And I'd just be curious what everybody thinks about it. And then we got the Lone Ranger, and then Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge. They talked about that a little bit earlier. And then we get a couple of air combat games. We get F-15 Strike Eagle and Ultimate Air Combat. I actually played. I spent a little bit of time with Ultimate Air Combat, and boy, the play control is a little iffy on it. Like, it was, like, all of a sudden Top Gun doesn't seem so bad now. I feel like I need to spend a little bit more time with it because it's almost like they tried to make it a little bit more realistic. And it's got 33 different missions in it. That's crazy. Each of the planes has unique handling characteristics, plus you can customize your ordnance load depending on which mission you're flying. Once you have reached your objective in a ground attack mission, the game switches to a Captain Skyhawk-like view. It's difficult to compare Ultimate Air Combat with F-15 Strike Eagle since both versions we saw were very early in development, but we think both offer interesting new features to NES flight action enthusiasts. Ooh, and then we got, this is like our little rumor mill. The Consumer Electronics Show gave us a ton of titles to talk about, and we'll try to sum it up here. So there's a Treasure Master. Boxing star Mike Tyson will return to the NES and American Softworks' new game pack Power Punch. It pits Iron Mike against interplanetary opponents, where the final count really is final. One of the most appealing aspects of Power Punch is that you box as Mike Tyson. And Acclaim is coming out with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And then there's a Rocketeer game coming out, and Captain Planet. And then Final Fantasy II. Square's plans for continuing the Final Fantasy saga were released at the Consumer Electronics Show. Final Fantasy II will be released for the Super NES in the fall and will be based on the Japanese Final Fantasy IV. Another chapter in the super hot Final Fantasy Legends series will soon be released for Game Boy. And then we got one more page of gossip. THQ's list of licenses grows. Although we haven't seen any games from THQ in production yet, they are collecting an impressive list of licenses. New ones announced at the CES include The Flash, Where's Waldo, Vanilla Ice, and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and Home Alone. Oh boy. THQ also demonstrated a paint and animation program for the NES for you budding video artists. Did that actually ever come out? I'll have to look for that. At this point, it looks like you'll have to save your creations on videotape rather than in a battery-backed cartridge memory. Then there was a Trivial Pursuit game that was coming out, and Greg Norman's Power Golf. And sequel rumors. Capcom is thinking about doing a fourth big-screen adventure for Mega Man, but haven't decided yet if it will be for the NES or for the 16-bit system. Another adventure starring Super Spy Golgo 13 is in the wind from Vic Tokai, and the long-awaited sequel to the classic Tecmo Bowl will soon be available. Tecmo Super Bowl. Other games in the works from Tecmo include Ninja Gaiden 3 for the NES and Tecmo Bowl for Game Boy. Ooh, and then Space Shuttle Simulator. I'm sure I remember drooling over this. I was a NASA nut when I was a kid. I never did. I'm going to have to find this one actually and play it. I actually do have the Space Shuttle Simulator for Atari. And that is something. We'll have to get into that in a video at some point at a later date. But Space Shuttle Simulator. Several stages of Absolute Space Shuttle game were available at CES, including the crew boarding sequence, satellite retrieval mission, and landing. Absolute Games designers have been wading through NASA's mammoth instruction manual for the actual shuttle to get ideas for the game. Yeah, the one for Atari is pretty intense. So let's see. We've got coming soon. It's got all the ones that we mentioned a lot of these already, but here's the ones that are coming soon and coming later. RoboCop 3. They just come out with RoboCop 2. Mega Man 4's in there. Tiny Toons. Vice Project Doom. Yeah, so we kind of already talked about those. We got a celebrity profile of Jeremy Miller. We'll skip that. And then we got back issues, and part of this got tore out, but this must be what's coming up. Oh, so yeah, next month would have been Vice Project Doom and Gauntlet 2 for Game Boy. So that's it. That is it for Nintendo Power number 23. So yeah, that's it for Nintendo Power 23. This was fun. Let me know if you'd like to see some more read-alongs with Nintendo Power in the future. Otherwise, we'll be working on another video soon. And I promise to get the next video out sooner this time. There's been a lot of crazy stuff going on behind the scenes at Friday Night Arcade HQ, but we're going to be getting back on the ball with getting some videos out at a lot faster speed from here on out. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching the show and sticking with the show, especially when we've had to take some longer breaks that I'd rather not take, but it had to happen for various reasons. So I'm back now. And I'm looking forward to making some new videos. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the show. And thank you for 10 great years of Friday Night Arcade. We'll see you in the next video.